Welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be ranking 10 different genres of games, and we're going to be seeing where they place. I am an indie game developer studying indie game, just game development at university, and I'm going to give my take on 10 different genres that I think are the main ones, and saying, well, do I like them? How do they look in terms of, are they easy to develop? Who makes them? Are they AAA? Are they indie? Friendly? And what does the general consensus probably say of all of them? So let's get straight into it. So getting straight into it, we're going to start off with action. So I'll give a little description of what it is before I properly get into it. Technically, this is action adventure, but I feel like most action games have a lot of adventure in, so I think it still counts. So this genre blends elements of action games, of exploration, puzzle solving, and a strong narrative. Players often embark on a grand quest in a sizable world. So this is meant to say action adventure, but it says action because there's not enough room. Action adventure, I personally have not really been that into before. Like God of War, I think it's a little bit too complex for me. But for other people, clearly loved it. It was a great game in terms, but remember, we are not ranking God of War, we're ranking action adventure games. They tend to do well. This is definitely something that is probably more AAA focused because just purely because of the amount of content that you'll need to make a good action adventure game is quite complex, I think. There's the fighting mechanics. There's probably a skill tree somewhere in there. And anything that has an open world in it, probably not a good idea for indies to try and take on. So action in terms of, with the following taken into account, is it good for indies? Probably not. A little bit overscoped unless you have a small team, but as an individual, it's going in probably C tier. For AAA though, I would probably put it in A or S tier. I mean, most amazing AAA games are action adventure. BioShock, Doom, God of War, Zelda, Tomb Raider, and all these games do really well, and they are fun. And that is the most important thing to be of a game. So we're going to put them in A by considering all those things. It literally, why? I really shouldn't use Adobe Illustrator for this, but it's going to go there. Moving straight on, RPGs. So I've selected The Witcher as like the background art for this because it kind of ties into action adventure games. This is again a genre which is 100% AAA. If you're an indie solo developer making an RPG, it's going to either take you 10 years to complete, or what's more likely is you're just not going to complete it and it'll be a waste of time. So the different examples, Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, Final Fantasy, Baldur's Gate, and RPGs focus on the character progression and immersive storytelling. Players assume the role of a character and guide them through a detailed world, often customizing their skills, stats, and equipment as they complete quests and advance the plot, alongside a lot of fighting. Now, overall, I quite like the concept of that. I think a lot of different options as well, like RPGs have that just expansive content for you to take on. So as a player, I think they're very highly rated. For an indie to make one, not happening. In fact, for an indie, it would go in D tier. AAA, and just how well it does with players, it's going to go in A tier as just a generalized ranking, because we're going to be speed running these rankings because my ranking videos have been almost 40 minutes long, and that is a lot of waffle. And the best way to cut out waffle is to restrict yourself to a certain time limit. So moving straight on, FPS games. Now, FPS games can be indie, they can be AAA. Obviously, AAA dominates the market. Call of Duty, still Call of Duty. I think I can't really think of Halo and Doom Eternal, sorry. I know I said earlier Doom is an action adventure game, but it is also an FPS game because you go around shooting, shotgunning demons. So FPSs, I mean, they are, it's got to be S tier. I think it's immediately got to go straight up and put this in S tier because an indie developer, I just slammed my chin into the mic. An indie developer can make this game. It can be a small one. I know there's one like this to do with paint, and there's like a bunch of your players a capsule and you shoot each other with paintballs. I mean, that's sick. AAA's, Call of Duty, one of the most successful games ever. So it's just such an easy and fun game loop. You shoot someone, you get 100 points. maybe not, the greatest morally speaking, but I don't think anyone really. I think there's no tie between shooting people in games, shooting people in real life. So yeah, it doesn't account. FPSs are going in S tier because they are, generally speaking, one of the most fun games, the most easy to learn, and anyone can make them. So, moving on to strategy. Strategy, I personally really like strategy. I think it's very rewarding, and it's more of like I can't describe it now. Strategy, in fact, we will describe it. Strategy games emphasize skillful thinking and planning to achieve victory. This genre can be turn-based, allowing players ample time to think, or real-time, requiring quick decisions. No games come to mind. Oh, yes they do. Age of Empires. So, players typically manage resources. They build structures and command units. That's kind of also RTS. So real-time strategy versus strategy on its own. I particularly like, there's a mobile game that does it really well. I'm trying to think what it's called now. Art of War 3. I particularly like that kind of game because putting a strategy RTS game on mobile is, I think, quite difficult, but it does it really well. And it also means you're not relying on... I'm trying to think now. If you're in a sword fight in a game, you've got to rely on constantly being at the top of your game. Your reflexes need to be up there, and you need to be locked the fuck in. However, for strategy, you can kind of sit back and let things happen, and it's a really nice thing to see progression in strategy games, I think. Like going from, having a base, a couple units collecting resources, to having a mega city base that you can then wage wars with other people. I know it's not the main thing with strategy, but the ability to control armies I find really entertaining. It's a sense of power, something that you wouldn't be able to do in the normal world. And this is something that players will obviously enjoy with gaming, because why do we go into games? Because we want to escape the real world and do things that we can't do, or that are physically impossible for us to do, unless we are a army general. So for me, I would put it S tier, but generally speaking, probably A tier. I think indies can make it. AAA obviously can make it. So it's again similar stance to FPS games where anyone can make it. But the general player, then again, I say that, and games like Civilization 6, 7, even, this is a picture of 7, I'm pretty sure, maybe it's, I don't really know, and StarCraft 2, like all of these kind of games people do really enjoy. So actually, I think strategy is going to go in S tier. And I'm pretty sure Plants vs. Zombies counts as S tier, and I love that game. So I put it up there for that as well. Now, as you can see, we have a beautiful image of, trying to think of a name for him, maybe Pete. Look at that nose. Okay, I'm sorry. Simulation games. I was supposed to put an image of The Sims, but the simulation text did not look good on it, so I didn't do it. I apologize. So, simulation games. This broad genre includes games that aim to realistically simulate a particular activity or system, like being a goat or being a sim and having a green gem, but I know that's not a very good joke, is this? The Sims 4, Flight Simulator, City Skylines. I don't really know that. I'm going to recall that now that I think about it. But definitely Flight Simulator, Bus Simulator, games like that. I personally don't really understand why people want to spend their time being a bus driver when you could just do that in real life or whatever. But, each their own. Same with football. I'm not a big fan of football, so I don't really like sports games. I'm not really a fan of driving or flying planes, so simulation isn't really my thing. But you can be a goat, or you could be a goose. Is it a goose? A duck. There's a game where you play as a duck. It has a knife, and personally, that's pretty cool. Simulation can also be pretty, low grade. Like that duck game I was talking about, not exactly the most high quality. Goat Simulator is not AAA as far as I'm concerned. And people do like them. But I think it's also a case it's a little bit more niche, because a simulator game tends to be something that you could do in the real world. You could be a bus driver. Okay, you can't be a goat, but a goat is restricted to physical laws. And if anything, when you play as a goat, you're more restricted than your real person. So I'll put it in B tier. because it doesn't really check the box of playing a game to escape the real world when you're going into another world. But at the same time, it's nice to take alternative actions given the same limitations of being a human or a goat. In The Sims, for example, you can live a separate life that has no consequences of your actual life, which I think is definitely something that is very cool. But as a whole, I'm thinking beta. Moving on to sports. Okay, so I really don't like sports. Okay, this is gonna make me sound like a hippo. I do go outside sometimes, but in terms of FIFA, this is something I really have a problem with FIFA. This is FIFA 23. I'm pretty sure there's more than that. How do you make 23 versions of the same game and people still buy it? I don't understand. Why not just... I get money, but why not just update the same game? I feel like it's quite a big scam. There are a lot of games like this, but FIFA is definitely one of them. NBA, I've seen people always NFL. No. Like EA Sports. Yeah, it is NBA. I think. Is it NFL is the rugby one, or soccer. And then you have Madden. So I can't put it in detail. I think people love sports, and I think it's a nice cross between real life and gaming. You can play sports, like if you're not physically capable to join the NBA, for example, you can reenact it in sports, which is an escape. I think it's very similar to simulation in that sense, so I am going to put that next to simulation. Moving on though, racing, again, okay, this one is different. I passed my driving test, I think 2 years ago now, and the limitations of the road are quite a problem. I'm joking, I'm a safe driver, but being able to have those restrictions lifted and be safe is pretty cool. And I think that's why racing is really good. Like, racing games are like, the objective in racing games is pretty straightforward: to be the first across the finish line. That's basically what you got to do. These games can be realistic simulations of professional racing, or more arcade style of exaggerated physics and environments, like take Mario Kart. So I should have put Mario Kart. Why is Forza here and Mario not? Because of Mario alone, it could go in S tier, because Mario is more like the icon. Oh no, to be fair though, Mario started off as a platformer, I think. But it has gone into... it's probably got to go A tier, because of Mario and Forza, like, it is a really enjoyable thing to do. And it can be done by pretty much anyone. Indies can make it. You get a car movement system, make a bunch of tracks. It's obviously not going to do as well as a AAA, but it's possible. And AAAs can obviously go ahead and make Forza, make everything realistic, add loads and loads of tracks, but I think you can do both. A shameless plug here for Powerful, my new game that is coming on the 30th of June, at the end of this month. It is a platformer, and it is set in the future, and that is all you need to know. It is really fun. I can share it because I made it, but I have spent the last couple of days just basically doubling the length of levels because I felt it was a little bit short, and I will probably put out a preview trailer. If not, there'll be a launch trailer, and I will hopefully cover some more stuff to do with it. But there's your plug, or there's my plug even. So yeah, it is wishlistable now on Steam if you fancy going and having a look. Trailers up also on the channel, so feel free to take a look at that as well. But anyway, platformers are going into the top tier, and I say this for one reason: it's the original style of gameplay. Mario was originally a platformer. I'm pretty sure I literally just said it was originally a racer, but it was both. Platformers, I feel, are also a great thing for indies, and I was going to make a video on this instead, but I decided to make this instead because I can... it is currently 10 at night, which is probably not that late for most people, but it is for me. I was having a problem with... No, we're not waffling. Platformers give... It's a nice... You know what? Wait, let me just lock in. In a platformer, the primary gameplay involves jumping between suspended platforms of varying heights whilst avoiding obstacles. These games can be 2D side-scrollers or take place in 3D environments. Mine is a 3D game because I think it's better. So like Super Mario Odyssey, Mario is still alive today and has been going for decades. And one of its main things as a platformer And you know it's a good genre if people are consistently playing over the course of decades. You've also got indie game. I think it's indie game. Celeste, Crash Bandicoot, and all of those kind of games. They're easy. They're easy to get to grips with, unless you're playing a precision platformer. And then it's the bane of your life. Also, platformers gave way to rage bait games. Chained Together. That's the only one I can think of. I think it's the other one's called like Up or something. That's a movie, actually. But platformers are the OG game genre, and they gotta get S tier because anyone can make them. And I think they're more suited for indie developers. Except for the titans like Mario from Nintendo. Puzzle games. I personally do enjoy puzzle games sometimes. Very rarely, actually. I think puzzle games show a different side to games. It's more like you're not playing a game to escape something. You're playing a game to maybe test yourself, and the feeling of beating a difficult challenge is very rewarding, and players often look for this when doing a puzzle game, and that's why they will play a puzzle game. It's a similar example like Portal 2. My game is actually very similarly styled to Portal 2. This is a terrible screenshot, by the way. This level has been doubled in length, so it should not look like that, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, Bubba Is You is the one I selected from behind because we saw this in uni, actually, and I thought this is a really impressive game where you're given the instructions in front of you, but they're not conjoined. You've got to piece them together, and I think that's really cool. But as I said, there are games like Portal 2 where you have to figure out portal connections, Tetris Effect Connected, The Witness. The Witness is a really big one, actually. I didn't realize it, but apparently it is. But the feeling of overcoming a challenge or puzzle that is mentally stimulating is what gets a lot of players to play games. So puzzles, okay, right. I've just written, right, we will go through this at the end and reshuffle. But for a puzzle game, we'll put them in B tier. Indies can make it, AAAs can make it. They're generally pretty fun. But the reason I'm putting it in B is because I personally find them pretty frustrating. Probably because I'm just not very good at them. Okay, right. So both of these I would put in S tier, but if I do that, it's gonna look like this, and it doesn't really work. So we'll go with survival first. I don't know how to. Let me think how to describe it. So survival games, they start the player with minimal resources in a hostile environment. The core gameplay loop involves gathering resources, crafting tools and shelter, and managing health and hunger. And you might be surviving against the weather, or you might be surviving against zombies, or trying to think 7 Days to Die here. I was looking today, there's like an update coming out. It looks awesome. Okay, apologies, I'm back. I messed up something there, but it's all good. Survival games like Ark. Ark is one of my my favorite game ever. And I like the progression that comes from survival games and the feeling of if you're in a situation on a desert island that this would be how you survive without having to put yourself through that, because it triggers the caveman instinct in our brains, which makes the monkey brain very happy to virtually stimulate primitive survival. It doesn't always have to be primitive. You could be surviving on Mars, but doing things yourself and surviving and keeping your character alive, it feels very rewarding. And AAA can make it, indies can make it. AAAs pretty much dominate the market, though. I think survival games are quite complex. You've got to have like engrams. Okay, I'm thinking Ark here, but they're very complex. And saying that, Minecraft was an indie game when it started off, so it's going to go up here. And unfortunately, this is going to be a top heavy. And there's not enough room. Okay, right. Before we go into horror, I'm going to rearrange some of these. All right, FPS is pretty generic, so it's going to go down to A tier. Strategy games, I love them, but probably B tier because players don't really want to stay around. I'm trying to think now. Strategy. I think just purely because Civilization 7 had some backlash, we'll put it there because I can't think of any other reason. Platformers, okay, right. I'll be real. They are very shallow. I say that now that I think about it. No, I think the very base of the game loop is shallow, and there's no getting around that. You go from one, it's still fun because it's simple, but simple means you're not taking it any further, so it's going to C tier. No, because I can't do that, but I can. No, okay. Simulation games, I don't really understand them, so they're going to go into C tier. I'm replacing that with platformers. Sports, okay, I'm not gonna lie, I just don't like sport games. It's going in D tier. Puzzle games, I'm not really a fan of them. C tier. Strategy games can definitely stay in B tier. Racing games, also not really a fan of them. It's going in B tier. FPS games, 100% staying in A tier. And survival games in S tier. Boom. Okay, I apologise if this offends anyone, but I can't have all of them going from B to S. That's not a tier list. Horror. My favourite genre aside from survival games. Horror is designed to frighten the player. Horror games are unsettling. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense. They use unsettling atmospheres to scare the player. I thought that's pretty self-evident. They also use things like jump scares, a sense of powerlessness, and a lack of visibility, all to create a terrifying experience. I was watching a video from Tale Foundry, and it's saying about how children make the worst horror, or make the most terrifying horror. Because when you're younger, you have no limitations of logic. And I personally remember when I was younger, I used to think there was a bear that could come in, like spawn in the corner of my room, or a crocodile that could eat me. And I got a bunk bed for that very reason, because I didn't want to be eaten by a crocodile. I live in the UK, so I don't really see how that happens. But it's stuff like that. That's a sidetrack anyway. I personally love horror. I think it really does put the player in a position of powerlessness and fear, and it really is a stimulating gameplay experience. If you're playing horror and you're genuinely invested into the game, then you're engaged. And the feeling of relief when you stop playing it, and the feeling of tension being relief when you get jump scared. It all builds to a very immersive and engaging and fun experience, even if you do need a new pair of pants. So that is going to go in S tier, and that is going to do it for the tier list video. I will just add in right at the end here. My game Powerful is on Steam. If you want to check it out, there will be a demo that is going to give players at least half the game when launch day happens. And I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to be my first release. The game is going to be very cheap. It's going to be basically $2, maybe $3. It would be $2 on release because I'm going to do a launch discount, because apparently it's supposed to do that. But I'm going to make a video on that and talk about how the Steam page was and how it was to create it. But yeah, thank you very much for watching the video. Have a lovely rest of your days or evenings. Goodbye.